You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
Co-host, Danny.
Hey, we got a full show for you today. A little NFL, a little college football, and MLB. And oh, by the way, the WNBA is in the finals. But first, Danny, let me just talk about these Green Bay Packers and where they went ahead and did their thing, 34-13 against the lowly Arizona Cardinals. And I think this is one of those get-right games, Danny. I think it was Jordan Love coming back in, had an interesting game last week. This week, he throws for 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. And the running game was, showed up. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 62 yards. Wilson, 7 carries for 54 yards. Packers goes well over 100 yards there. A good spreading around the football. Pass catcher-wise, you had the likes of Christian Watson scoring a touchdown. Dobbs comes back from not playing last week to scoring 2 touchdowns. Jaden Reed. So it was a good spreading on the football. I think it was one of those get-right games again. And next week they play the Houston Texans. So this is going to be interesting. The Cardinals are the Cardinals. Not used to cold weather. I think it was like 49, 50 degrees as the high. Raining to start the game. You talking about no rushing. There was no rushing by the Cardinals. Well over or under 100 yards, 89 yards. Receiving wise, McBride did 96 yards there. And unfortunately, Marvin Harrison Jr. Left the game early due to injury. So, yeah, Danny, this, Packers get right game. We'll see what they do against the Texans. Very interesting. What say you about this game?
Dobbs, seeing his body language, man, you can still tell he was not happy. He did get the 2 touchdowns. I figured Jordan Love was going to hook him up after all that went down last week about him not being involved in the offense. Y'all get the win. Cardinals fumbled 2-3 times. Crucial points in the game because they were coming back because y'all were blowing them out. Was it 24-0? And the Cardinals were coming back. They had some fumbles. They had some key drops. You could tell Kyler Murray was just frustrated with his receiving core. And James Conner got hurt. He ended up coming back, but so the Packers took care of business. But y'all kicker, man, again, missed another one. And I think that may come back to bite him later in the season, possibly depending on what the situation is, because that one was wide right. You have your full complement of receivers back, so now we'll see what they can do next week against the Texans.
Another game of interest here, played early on Sunday morning overseas, Chicago Bears against the Jaguars. And I just think this one was a little interesting in that this early in the season, the schedules will get harder. But Caleb Williams, you got to give credit where credit is due. 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception. And the Bears are rolling. They're 4-2. And you can say that the NFC North is the hardest division in football right now, where all the teams are actually doing well. But the Jaguars continue to struggle. There's going to be some change. There's got to be some changes, man. They're 1-5. For them to degress like this, man, from year to year, something's going to change here, either in the middle of the season or towards the end. But the Bears, goes ahead and win. I think the other games of interest, that goes to your division, man, the Buccaneers and Saints. I did not see this coming by the Buccaneers. 51 points. Baker Mayfield, 325 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tucker, 14 carries, 136 yards, a touchdown. I did not see this coming. I think the Buccaneers are someone you got to watch out for, Danny.
Hmm.
So that was another intriguing game. Uh, Another game of interest to me, Danny, was that of the Ravens and Commanders. I was more so interested in seeing if the Ravens can continue to go down the path of running this football, and if Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, if he can continue his string of great play. And Derrick Henry goes for 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 323 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He also rushes for 40 yards. Jaden Daniels, 24 for 35, 269, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. And Danny, just to go on here about the Ravens, Washington Commanders, and like I mentioned, Jaden Daniels was someone who I was really looking forward to seeing. But Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that duo, Heisman Trophy winners, Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP. Some would argue that Derrick Henry should be the MVP. He's putting the Ravens over the hump here. So this is going to be interesting, man. But a good victory here by the Ravens, their fourth win in a row after starting the season 0-2, and they're now 4-2. So watch out for the Ravens, man. Some are saying that the Ravens are arguably the best team in football right now.
Hmm.
One other game, two games that I want to talk about here. I think it's time for the Browns to do something here. The Eagles win 2016, but I think the bigger story is that of the quarterback play of Deshaun Watson, who went 16 for 23 for 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And at this rate, man, I mean, the Browns has a decent defense, more than a decent defense. They have weapons, Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. Are you kidding me? And for only 168 passing yards by Deshaun Watson to happen, I mean, something's got to change there, man.
Hmm.
Of course, there's some bigger news about the Eagles coach chatting with the fans after the game.
Hmm.
I don't know what to make of that, man. I just think that the Eagles are going to, I don't know. They just seem a little flat. Something's off with the Eagles, but something is more off with the Browns. The
Yep.
last game I'll mention, Danny, is that of the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. I knew Detroit was going to win. I just didn't know it was going to be by like this. Um, Goff goes for 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I'll just say that Cowboys look terrible, man. They look terrible. This is on the birthday of the owner, 82nd birthday. And I'll just say that Cowboys look terrible. Bigger news, though, I think, is that Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions getting injured. Aiden Hutchinson, and man, it just, he's out for the season. Huge blow to the Detroit Lions. I think they go out and get somebody to fill that gap, fill that void there. But man, this is a hit to their Super Bowl chances, not unless they get somebody to trade for somebody who can fill that void. What say you about the NFL weekend, Danny?
Jason, just a couple comments on the games you did mention, and I'll get to my Falcons. The Cowboys game, yeah, it said that Hutchinson, if they make the Super Bowl, he may be able to make it for the Super Bowl. So it's kind of like a T.O. situation. Remember T.O. when he broke his leg and when he was playing with the Eagles and he made it and actually played pretty good. Um, so it's kind of like that situation. So we'll see there. Ravens Commanders, man, Derrick Henry, and they rode him out at the end of the game. something they did not do at the beginning of the season. So it's a great pivot and adjustment by the Ravens to understand they do have Derrick Henry in the backfield and they can leverage him. If he can stay healthy, man, they're going to be tough. With Lamar playing the way he's playing, at an MVP level, I would say too. He's being very efficient with the ball and making good decisions. We'll see, but it was good to see the Commanders at least hang with the Ravens, especially with all the hype with Jaden Daniels and everything. So they did hang around, and Ravens pulled that one out. And my Falcons took care of business yesterday, Jason. Got a little nervous after that first quarter. This is one of them letdown type games that us the Falcons fans are used to, where we have a nice win like we did against the Buccaneers, and then come out the next week and play someone like the Panthers and get beat. But Falcons took advantage of the ground game, controlled the clock. Algier had 105 yards rushing. Bijan had 95 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Algier had a touchdown. Kirk Cousins had 225 yards passing. But it was one of those games where they controlled the clock, got the defense off the field, and the defense made some timely plays to steal the win 38-20. Big game next week against Seattle. Seattle comes to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you just don't know what you're going to get with Seattle, man, because they're loaded, but they're just really inconsistent. Great week of football. I'm curious with the Jags, going back to the Bears, Jags. Do they might as well just send Doug Peterson on the plane, let him get his own ticket and just send him back? I'm sure they're going to let him coach since they're there for 2 weeks. And you talk about a bad game next week. Jags, Patriots in London. Oh, that's rough. But you do get to see Drake May. And Drake May actually had a decent game yesterday against the Texans. The Patriots' offensive line is not the greatest. He didn't have a lot of time, but he did throw 3 touchdowns. And his throws look pretty good. But that London game next week, I'm just going to go ahead and skip that one and just move on to the noon games, because that was going to be rough, rough on the eyes. We got Jets and Bills tonight. We'll see as the world turns in New York how tonight goes with a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach.
And Danny, college football, man, let me just say, there was a couple of interesting games. The Oregon-Ohio State game, 1-point victory by Oregon, and Big Ten versus the Big Ten, new Big Ten, if you will. But I think with the playoffs, again, you're allowed maybe 2 losses. Still could be in the playoffs and still could win a championship. So the fact that Ohio State lost this game, it doesn't, to me, ring so terrible news for the team. So they have the opportunity to bounce back. Penn State against USC. Penn State comes back and prevails. Alabama barely beats South Carolina by 2. I think Alabama continues to struggle there, man. So that's a team to watch out for, because they're at number 7, ranked number 7. Still a long way to go in the season, but man, if they go out the top 12, watch out. LSU beats Ole Miss 29-26. Another game of interest there. Colorado drops to Kansas State. Even though Colorado's not ranked, I mean, obviously they're a high-profile team. Needs 2 more wins to become bowl eligible, and that's a steady progression in the team. From 1 win to, I think last year they had 3 wins, to now possibly 6. So continue to monitor that, Danny. What say you about college football?
Jason, the Penn State USC game, Penn State was actually down 2 touchdowns, and USC didn't close them out. There was some questionable plays at the end of that Penn State USC game where it looked like Penn State had a couple of pass interferences that weren't called on them in overtime that led to them actually winning the game. So, it's in the eyes of the referees and they didn't call it, but they were a little handsy. Alabama, man, pulling that game out. They're lucky to sneak that one out. In Oregon or Ohio State, great game. Yeah, I don't see either of these teams being in trouble, man. Especially they were what 2-4, 2-5, or whatever they're ranked. So, and they played it. It was a competitive game. It wasn't like one team blew the other team out. Uh, and Shaq was in the house at the LSU game where LSU pulled it out with his big diesel chain on. But yeah, it was a good weekend of football. But next week we get Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. Some big showdowns there. So looking forward to those games as well.
I would say in Texas beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry game here, 34-3. The Texas Georgia game, Danny. Let me just say, Texas looks unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And now unless they beat themselves, this is going to be a very telling game,
Yep.
Texas and Georgia. So we'll see. And now, Danny, on to Major League Baseball, where the playoffs are happening. New York Mets, who are down one game, actually now is leading this game too. Last I saw was 6-0. Now it's 6-1, bottom of the fifth. I personally don't want a new Subway Series. We saw that some years back. Yankees took it.
Yeah.
I personally would like to see a Yankees Dodgers series. Aaron Judge, Ohtani, I would love to see that series.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, man, because it seems like any team that beats the Brewers makes it to the World Series. It looks like the Mets are going to win this game.
Couple things. One, with the Dodgers beating the Padres the way they did, couldn't believe the way the Padres folded those last couple games, man. The bats just went ice cold. They didn't score the last two games, and it's tough to see them go out like that, especially the way they were playing, but that's how it goes, right? And then the Dodgers went ahead and blew the doors off the Mets in game one last night. And the Mets being resilient as they have been in these playoffs in this last month or so of baseball, putting it on the Dodgers today. I agree, Jason. I would prefer to see the Dodgers play the Yankees. And the Yankees have the Guardians, who the Guardians got past Detroit on Saturday, got the Screwball, got the grand slam off him early and went ahead and beat the Detroit Tigers. So this is not a gimme for the Yankees either now. Curious, man. They got it. It is in, at Yankee Stadium tonight. They start off game one. But these are two tough series, especially the way you would think the Dodgers would dominate the Mets, but the Mets are they're playing with house money. They have nothing to lose, and the pressure's on the Dodgers, actually, I think. I'm very interested, though, in both of these series as they have some intriguing matchups and some intriguing players to watch. So I will be tuned in throughout these series just to see what's going on and see how they progress and if who makes it to the World Series.
And then just as we're talking about the World Series, there's also a finals being played in the WNBA, and where New York Liberty and Minnesota Lynx are battling it out. Series is tied at one game apiece. And I mean, best out of five. Next season, the WNBA is looking to go to best of seven. Got more eyeballs, more viewership on these games now. Where there's more eyeballs, there's more ad dollars, there's more revenue coming in, more games, not only more revenue coming in from TV ads, etc., but also from people going to the games, ticket sales, gate sales. So this is a win for the WNBA getting paid, but man, basketball has been good. I'm intrigued. And I think this bodes well for the WNBA. What say you about this WNBA finals?
Jason, leading up to the finals, the Aces were knocked off, as returning champs, which the Liberty actually just took care of them. It wasn't a close series, I don't think at all. From when watching the games, it was just one of those things where it was surprising actually how New York did what they did to the Aces. And then from the Lynx Sun side, Collier from the Lynx, she's really good. And I think it's one of those teams that, it's Minnesota, right? It's a smaller market, same like with the Timberwolves. And then from the NBA perspective, where they're a smaller market, but they have some star players. And so she's being put on display here in the championship series. They came back in game one. The Liberty are actually up double digits on them, and they ended up coming back and taking the overtime and won by 2. And then the game 2 yesterday, Liberty beat pretty good by 14. So next game is Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. So game 3, and that's a pivotal game in this series. So we'll see what happens. It is in Minnesota. So the Liberty better not lose this game, because the Lynx get another game 4, where they could close out possibly.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.